Welcome to module number 1 of construction operations. Hopefully you've watched the intro video. If you haven't, then go back and watch the intro video for construction operations so you can get an idea of what this class is all about. Because right now we're going to jump right into the first module. And the first thing I want you to do is think about the answer to a question. I'm going to ask you a question here in a second. And this question is one of the most important questions in your college CM career. And I'm serious, because this question, the answer to this question, has to do with every single CM class that you've taken. Every single one. So knowing the answer to this question is really important for you. The question is, what do you think defines a successful construction project? What do you think defines a successful construction project? Think about that. Think about that for a minute. Right now, hopefully you're thinking, oh, I got some ideas. I got some ideas. Normally, I'd write these down on a board for you, but we're virtual, so we're not going to do that right now. But hopefully you have an idea, and maybe you even have some notebook in front of you that you're taking some notes and you can jot down a couple of things. If you don't have a notebook in front of you, I would encourage you to get a notebook in front of you. Maybe pause this video, go grab a notebook, because you're going to need to write down some of these notes because it will be part of this class. So now that you're back from pausing, because I know probably none of you had a notebook in front of you until now, but just remember that a short pencil is better than a long memory, okay? Don't ever forget that. No matter how smart and how good of a memory you think you have, a short pencil is better than a long memory. Okay, now what do you think defines a successful construction project? Well, I've got a few things. I've narrowed it down for you, and so I want you to write these down. And like I said, remember, the answer to this question has everything to do with every class you've taken in this CM program. The first one is on schedule. A successful construction project is on schedule. The next one is completion to a specified level of quality. So a quality project, and usually that's a specified level of quality. Not every project is going to be built to this quality level or this quality level, but a specified level of quality, building it up to that and maybe exceeding it. That's important for a successful construction project. The next thing is effective cost control. So making sure your costs are in line and everything that you're doing on the project is in line with the budgeted costs. That's going to create a successful construction project. The next thing is an effective safety program. Not just having a safety program, but an effective one. You can have all the safety programs you want, but if nobody's being safe on the site, then obviously it's not effective. That's what you need for a successful construction project. The next one, customer satisfaction. This is a relationship-based business. It is. If you don't know that by now, you're going to know that very soon. It's a relationship-based business. People who survived the recession in construction, it was because of relationships, because people that had good relationships, their customers were coming back to them. So good customer relationships, customer satisfaction is extremely important in construction and for a successful construction project. You could have all these other things, but if you pissed off the customer during the project, then that wasn't successful. The next thing is effective management of subcontractors. And by effective, what I mean by that is that you have good relationships with them, that your subcontractors made money just like you made money, that they were happy, that they want to come back and do more work for you, that they are on schedule. All of these things are effective management of subcontractors, good communication with the subcontractor. And so you need that for a successful construction project. We want to have good relationships with our trade partners out there. And so that's something we're going to talk about in this class. And all of these things, one, two, three, four, five, 6 of these things are interrelated. Can you see that? That they're all interrelated? Let's look at that for a minute. So if you do not have a job that's on schedule, you're behind schedule, what are you going to do? You're going to work some overtime, you're going to hire more subcontractors, you're going to bring more people onto the job site. People are going to be moving faster and faster and faster. And what suffers? Safety suffers because you have everybody stacked on top of each other and trying to do things too fast. Quality suffers because everybody's trying to do things too fast and they're not paying attention to what they're doing. They're just trying to get it done. Your subcontractors become extremely upset with you because you're stacking them on top of each other and forcing them to do things faster than they're planning on doing it. Your customer's not happy with you because you're behind schedule and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're going to have to pay more to get everybody to work overtime, so your cost control is not there. So everything is interrelated. Let's look at another one. Let's say that you're not managing your subcontractors effectively. Okay? That being said, they're unhappy. They're not making money. They're not on schedule. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so what does that equal? That equals your schedule being behind schedule, your cost control not being there, the level of quality not being there, and all of those things affect your customer satisfaction. And if a subcontractor is not happy, then they are going to be unsafe on the job site. They're going to be trying to do things faster so that they can get out of there, and they're going to be unsafe. And they're probably not going to listen to you in that safety meeting. All of these things are interrelated. You know what else all of these things have in common? They're all managed by the superintendent. And they're all important for a job site manager, on-site job site manager, to be working on and to make sure that all of these things are working together and all of these things are happening successfully. So when it comes to a successful construction project, the superintendent is critical. The work that a superintendent does on the job site is absolutely critical. If you do not have a good superintendent on the job site, if you do not have good job site management on the job site, you're not going to have a successful construction project. And so in this class, we get to go through all these things. We get to understand how you manage safety, how you communicate with subcontractors, how you manage subcontractors effectively, how you manage your schedule effectively, how you manage quality on the job site effectively. These are the things we're going to study in this class. And it's so important that you learn how to do these things. So, when somebody asks you what defines a successful construction project, you know what it is. And then you say, and this is how you do it. Because Bruner taught me in CM 481. Okay? So, that being said, let's move on and let's talk about construction. Okay? A construction project. Construction projects are really, really interesting. You know, you got into construction for a reason. Obviously, you thought there was something cool about it. You thought there was something interesting about it. You thought there was something unique about it. And I want to tell you, you're right. Construction is unique and construction is awesome. So let's talk about why that is. because these things are so unique to construction that it's not like any other project that you would do in any other industry. The first thing that makes construction unique is it's a unique assembly with finite parameters. Okay, so the assembly itself, almost every single project that you do is going to be different. Every single one. Now, you might say, well, what about residential construction where they're building, the same house after the same house after the same house? You go down these streets in Phoenix and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where I'm at because all the houses look exactly the same. Well, if you were building the same exact house with the same exact finishes, with the same exact subcontractors, even that, with two houses right next to each other, it's going to be different because you're going to deal with possibly different soil conditions. You're going to deal with different relationships on each of those projects, even with the same person or the same subcontractor, trade partner. You're going to deal with differences. The weather might be different. Every single project is going to be a little bit different. And that's cool. That's what keeps us excited. That's what keeps us engaged, is because everything is a little bit different. Now, I tell students this all the time. But if you go into construction thinking, well, I'm going to do this exact thing on this exact day, and this construction project's going to happen and it's going to work, then you're probably going to be a little disappointed. If you go into construction and you wake up in the morning and you say, okay, well, I've got my list of things to do today. I'm going to go into work, I'm going to check these things off the list, and when I get those done, I'll go home, and it'll be great. You're going to go into work that day, and something's going to come up. This person's going to come into your office with an issue. This person's going to come over here with a challenge. You're going to run into something in the ground. Stuff is going to happen. And if you're expecting just to check all these things off your list, then you are not going to be happy. Because construction is all about problem solving and challenges. If there was no problems or challenges, you wouldn't have a job. Construction would just be easy. We wouldn't need managers and superintendents because everything would just go the way it's supposed to go. So if I can give you this one piece of advice, go into construction with an open mind. Go into every day with an open mind of, well, what new challenge do I get to work through today? What new problem will I get to work through today and solve? And then I'll check that stuff off my list in between all of that. Because yeah, that stuff needs to be done. Just remember that when you go into construction. It's going to make you a lot happier in life. You're not going to be as stressed because you're going to know what to expect. The next thing that's really unique and really awesome about construction is that it has a finite duration. It stops. It ends. And you go on to the next thing. You go on to build the next project. There are some projects out there that, manufacturing, we're just going to keep producing this until people stop buying it. We're just going to keep making the same thing until people stop buying it. Well, every construction project has a finite duration. It stops and it ends. Also, it's located away from the home office. Almost every construction project, if you have a home office of your construction company, it's going to be somewhere else. That doesn't happen in really much any other industries where we've got a home office, but we don't actually do anything of the construction there. We don't make anything there. We make it over here. And so a lot of times you'll be managing from a distance. And that creates challenges. It's unique. The next thing is there are thousands of parts, systems, equipment within one project. One project. And all of these things are in this one project. You've got to procure and get bought and have people that can install all of these thousands of parts and systems that some of them you understand and some of them you don't understand, but they all go together and they all work together, and sometimes they don't work together, so we got to make them work together. And that creates your project. That's pretty awesome. That's hard. You know, once you think you have everything figured out in construction, the next day you'll learn you don't. You'll never stop learning in construction. The day you stop learning in construction is the day you quit construction, okay? Because in construction, we learn new things every day. There's new things coming out every day. There's new problems to be solved every day. If you're not learning, you're not doing your job. That's a pretty exciting thing about construction. Next, of why things are unique and awesome is there's a lot of custom fabrications in construction. Custom, like made just for that project. So I'll give you a little bit of an example. For any of you who have taken any business classes in the College of Business, that was a project that I worked on, if you didn't know already. And in the College of Business, there's these little seat rails down at the bottom of the stairwells. And they're rails that sit down there that are kind of to keep people from going underneath the stairs, but also they've made them into seats by putting these cushions on them. Well, when we were building that project, the architect drew a pretty picture of these cushions on this rail. And of course, a structural steel guy can put, the tube in there and can weld it all together and make it look nice. But where do you find just round cushions that attach around a specifically, round steel tube? Well, you don't. It's a custom fabrication. The architect drew it on the picture. Now you got to figure out how to get it. And I know this is like a really simple example, but did I know anything about cushions and upholstery? No. I wanted to build buildings. I didn't want to, remodel somebody's couch. So I didn't know anything about this. So where do I go? I go to the expert. I went to the local upholstery guy. And he told me, which I didn't know, there's 2 layers usually in cushions of different thicknesses and softnesses of foam. And so, in the middle there's the harder foam, and on the outside there's the softer foam, and you sit down on the softer foam, and then your butt hits the harder foam, and it's comfortable. Okay, I didn't know this. Did you know that? Now you do. Okay, so we went around and we had different thicknesses of foams, and I'd sit on that one and be, yeah, that feels good. Oh, that one's even better. Oh, this one's good. And so we decided which foam to use, and then we had to come up with what we were going to wrap it in. And he happened to have just remodeled a Denny's, and he had this beautiful orange pleather vinyl stuff that was used in the Denny's remodel, and he said that looks like it would be the right color. And so I took that over to the architect. The architect said, yeah, that's great. I don't know where you found this stuff. And I said, well, man, I had to search it down, so took that vinyl and we wrapped it all in this Denny's vinyl. I don't think the architect even ever knew that it was actually like Denny's vinyl. But we wrapped it all in that, and there we had our custom fabrication. But it was all this new stuff I had to learn. And by the way, I just went over there last semester and sat on those things. They're still good. Still good. They are solid and comfortable. 2 layers of foam, Denny's vinyl, beautiful. Okay? So we got to learn new stuff all the time. And then in construction, we have lots of subcontracting. Okay, there are paper contractors out there that actually do no work at all. They're hired to build a building, but they don't actually build anything. That's kind of weird and unique to construction. But it creates another level of difficulty of problem solving that we have to do in construction. And so we've got to subcontract to lots and lots and lots of different contractors. You know, probably 30 different subcontractors on a site, each of those having probably another second tier subcontractor. And so now we're talking another, 60, 30 to 60 second tier subs, and all of them having fabricators and suppliers that they need to get all their materials from. And so then there's another 2 or 3 on top of that. We're talking, another 60 suppliers there. So right now we're looking at 150 different companies that are involved in this one project. And you've got to make sure they're all working together. Okay, that's tough. Yeah. This is unique about construction. And this is why we have courses like Construction Job Site Operations, where we learn how to help all those people work together. And then the last thing here is there is a single owner or customer for each project. Now, sometimes you might have multiple owners, like the conference center on North Campus of NAU. We had the City of Flagstaff, we had NAU, we had Sodexo. We had all 3 of those that were considered had stake in ownership. And so that might happen. But each project has its own owner or set of owners. And then you move to the next project and it has new owners. And the next one has new owners. And they're all different. Every single one of them has different levels of involvement on the job. They have different levels of desire to know everything on the job. They also have different levels of expectations for the job, and knowing your customer's expectations and meeting those expectations is going to create a successful construction project. Remember that we want to keep the owner happy? Okay. So this is unique to construction, but it makes it a challenge. It makes it awesome. So why do we want to be in construction? Because it's fun, because it's unique, because it's challenging. I think we should remind ourselves of that. As you're getting ready to graduate here in a few months, remind yourself of why construction is so cool. And this will help to just keep you interested in construction. I mean, we're going to be in construction for a lot of years. So you want to stay interested. You want to remind yourself why this is so cool. Once you learn all of those attributes of a project, all of those unique things about a project, once you figure them out for each project, only then can you start to formulate how you're going to build the project, how you're going to manage the project. And so, what is the overarching theme of this class? And how does it relate to all of those unique aspects of construction? Well, in this class, I'm going to teach you things that help you to know one thing, and that is how to run a construction project. I want you to leave this class saying, I know how to run a construction project. That's the overarching theme here. You need to be able to run a construction project. Now, you might get thrown out into the industry and be given a small project or maybe even a big project, who knows? And you might have to run that construction project. So me as your trainer in this class, I want to make sure that you know how to do that so that you don't go out there and you're like, oh man, crap your pants. I have no idea how to do this. I am screwed. No, I want you to be able to say, I know how to do this. I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit unsure, but I have the tools to know how to run a construction project. And so I'm going to give you some management techniques. At the end of this module, I'm going to have you do an assignment, and you're going to have to watch a video. Now, this video is about a project, and in this video, I'm going to have you write down what you see in this video from each of these management techniques. So you're going to have all these management techniques listed out, and then you're going to have a list of what you saw in the video that relate to that management technique. And that's going to be your assignment. So you need to take some notes on what these management techniques are and what they mean, okay? Don't just rely on the PowerPoint presentation, because you need to understand what it means. So take some notes so that you know that. Now, the first of these management techniques is the organization of management personnel, okay? In every project, there's going to be a different need for different management personnel. Okay, we're talking superintendents, project engineers, field engineers, all of the different people that are required to run a project. There's going to be different needs and levels of needs for each of those people. You might have a project where you have a superintendent and an assistant superintendent, or maybe multiple superintendents for all of the areas. Or you might just have a project that needs one superintendent, depending on the size of the project. There's going to be so many different organizational structures that you need for each of these projects. And you're going to need to figure that out before the project begins. And then you're going to need to work within that organizational structure to complete the project successfully. The next technique is you're going to need leadership. And we're going to talk a lot about leadership in this course. You know I like leadership stuff. And so leadership is an important technique for construction projects. I mean, first of all, sometimes you're managing the project from a distance. That's really difficult. A superintendent, a leader, needs a vision for the project. You need to have a vision for the project. You need to know where the project is going, what a successful project looks like, and how to get there. You need to have a vision for that in your mind before you begin the project. You need to know what the financial goals are for the project. You need to know what the quality goals are for the project. You need all that to be part of your vision, to be able to lead people to that vision, to that successful landmark. You need those things. The next piece of this is problem solving. And we've already talked about problem solving quite a bit. And we know that construction is problem solving. Construction is about working through issues, working through challenges. Because like I told you just a little bit ago, if you go in every day and expect things to go just right, you're going to be severely disappointed in your job, and you're going to be stressed out. Way stressed out, okay? Because it's not going to go. It's not going to go like you think it's going to go. You're not going to be able to check that list off. You're going to go in and there's going to be new problems that come up. That's because you are a problem solver. We're training you to be a problem solver. If you're not a problem solver, then you're not ready for construction. You need to know how to solve problems. And in this class, we're going to teach you how to solve problems, how to be an effective problem solver. The next technique is reporting and record keeping. Wait a second. I've actually got to write some stuff down. Hopefully you're taking notes right now, okay? But you need to keep records. You need to be able to report things. You need to have logs. You need to be able to write daily reports and daily logs. You need to be able to write safety reports. You need to be able to write emails, and you need to be able to take meeting minutes. All of these things are super important for construction. That is an absolute necessary management technique for you, is reporting and record keeping. If you don't write it down, then you're not going to know what it was, a week down the road. You just won't. No matter how good of a memory you think you have, it's not good enough. And when we talk about reporting and record keeping, we also talk about, what if you were not on the project anymore? Can somebody look back at the reporting and record keeping and know what's going on the project, know what happened a week ago, know what happened a month ago, know what happened a year and a half ago for that matter? Can they actually look back and know the project? Or is it all in your head? If it's all in your head, that's a problem. There's got to be historical documentation for the project. And you're responsible for putting that together. We're going to talk about that in this course. Planning and scheduling. Okay? This is part of record keeping, but it's also a communication tool. You remember in scheduling class where we talked about a schedule is a communication tool. There's no other purpose for it. It's putting your plan on paper so that you can give it to somebody else so that they can see what your plan is. It's communication. So you need to be good at planning and scheduling. And a lot of people say, well, I could plan it, I could schedule it, but my plan is just going to change tomorrow. Well, yeah, that's true. Your plan is probably going to change tomorrow. That's because we're problem solving. We're moving, we're flexing, we're making things work. But if you don't plan, you're going to fail. A failure to plan is a plan for failure. You can write that down. That's a good one that I learned. A failure to plan is a plan for failure. So you always got to be planning and replanning and planning again and replanning and redoing your schedule and building a new one and adjusting. That's what we do in construction. It's a necessary technique. Okay, cost control. You might say, well, superintendents, they don't have to do cost control, so I don't know why we're talking about that in job site management, because superintendents, they don't do that. Well, let me tell you something. Superintendents are just as responsible for costs as a project manager. Superintendents are a lot of times the first line of defense on the job site when it comes to cost control. Sometimes the project managers don't even know that cost is happening until 2 months down the road when they get a change order from a subcontractor that his superintendent signed off on something that they didn't know about. The superintendent is the first line of defense when it comes to cost on the job site. Quality management. The superintendent is also the main quality manager on the job site, making sure that things are built to a specified level of quality. Just walking around and doing quality checks, making sure the quality control checklist is done, making sure that everybody is held to a level of quality. That is the superintendent's job. Once the superintendent starts to take little breaks or not go out and hold people to that level of quality, all of a sudden that spreads around. And this subcontractor hears that, well, I can do it faster and cheaper this way, and they let this subcontractor do kind of the same thing. So let's just do it to this level. Well, no, the superintendent needs to be holding them to this level, making sure that their level of quality is to a specified level and exceeding it for the owner. Quality manager, that's what the superintendent does. Now, safety management. You don't need me to tell you that safety is the absolute most important thing on the job site. It's absolutely a necessary management technique. The superintendent is ultimately responsible for safety on the project, making sure that everyone is being held to a high safety standard, making sure that people are meeting and doing the things that they need to do. If they're not, they're off the job site, they're getting written up. But the superintendent is held liable for safety accidents. You heard me talk about this in safety class, but the superintendent can be held personally liable, not the company. The superintendent can be held personally liable for accidents that happen on the job site. And in Arizona, if there's certain things that happen, like if somebody dies from falls or electrocution, or those big ones that happen a lot, they are automatically sent in to the Attorney General to find out if they're going to be indicted personally for that incident. That's a little scary. So superintendents are absolutely one of the main safety officers, if you want to call them that, on the job site. And then lastly, contract compliance. So contract compliance has to do with all of those subcontracts that are written on the job. Now, the project manager might actually write those subcontracts, but the superintendent is the person that's actually putting those things in place and needs to know those contracts if they're going to manage the subcontractors and the trade partners. So, is it important for a superintendent to know what's in the contract? Absolutely. It's probably more important that the superintendent knows what's in those contracts than the project manager. That's why every time as a project manager I would write a subcontract, I would send it to the superintendent for review, because they knew what might be missing, because they had on previous projects had a project manager that forgot to write this particular thing in and they got burned on it. And they're the ones that have to get the things done on the job site. And do you think a superintendent would rather just have the subcontractor actually doing the work, or have that subcontractor come in and say, well, that wasn't in my contract, I'm going to need a change order, and this is going to hold things up until I get that change order, and then, yeah, it may be the project manager's fault, but ultimately it's affecting the superintendent. So the superintendent's going to be big on contracts. They're going to want to know what's in that contract, and they're going to manage that contract. Superintendents need to know their contracts, especially if a subcontractor comes in and says, yeah, that's not in our contract. The superintendent should know for sure whether it is or is not. Maybe it is. Well, it's actually right here in this line. I mean, we don't want to manage that way, like having to point at the contract all the time, but sometimes it's necessary. So right here, this is a great list of necessary management techniques. Okay? Like I said, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you watch a video, and in that video, you're going to point out each of these. And so, for example, organization of management personnel. Anytime in that video, if they talk about how this person does this work, or this management person manages this, or we've got an inspector that inspects this, just write that down. Right? The inspector inspects this. They have a superintendent for this, and a superintendent for this, and a superintendent for this. So it's not going to say, well, here's how we organized our management personnel. You're going to have to look for those things in the video. Anytime you see leadership displayed, good or bad, then I want you to write that down. Anytime you see things that affect cost, I want you to write that down. So I would probably do this electronically so that you can have all of these listed out, and then you can just type it in real quick as you're watching the video. Now the video, it is in YouTube, so I've given you the YouTube link, but it's kind of not the greatest video. You can watch it. It's kind of picture in picture, but that's all they have on YouTube. You can also rent this or buy this video from Amazon, so that if you wanted to watch it that way, you can too. But either way, you need to watch it. You need to be able to pick all these things out of it. It's a really interesting video. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. This is your first class. This is your first module in construction operations. And so thank you for taking the time, and I look forward to our next get-together, our next meeting, our next module. Let me know if you have any questions in the meantime.